It's time to do some prep work for week 4, which is all about clearing the blockers. Because like I mentioned in the intro to week 3, what happens when we start to make changes in our lives is blockers come up for us to clear. And it's a bugger, but we just have to manage it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to become an anablep. And you might wonder what an anablep is. For those who don't know what an anablep is, it is a South American fish that is famous for a really peculiar feature. It has 2 pairs of eyes. So one pair of eyes is always looking up for predators, and the other pair of eyes is always looking down for food. And I'm going to be asking you to do this week. As you are implementing the practices around forging a wild new way of working, as you are moving towards the principles of forging a wild new way of working, I want you to pay attention to the blockers that arise for you. And I'll talk about what those blockers might look like in a minute. But I did want to get really clear, because it can be really frustrating when you get clear on something and you make a decision and you are like, let me at it. And then something comes down to pull you back. It's like, not yet, honey. And it happens to me all the time. I worked this out when I started to set an intention word for the year. So I still remember when I set an intention word that was love, and it was like all the wounds from my first marriage came up that year to be cleared. I then set an intention word, I think it was the next year, of bliss, and that was the year my thyroid went, really, hun? Yeah, like you really think you're going to be blissful this whole year? No, you've got stuff to deal with. So whenever we set an intention, a goal, or make a decision, everything that is in the way of that being a reality for us goes, hey, sweetie, see the stuff from the basement that you haven't looked at yet? You need to manage this. The other reason we find ourselves blocked is for very different reasons. We might get very excited about doing something, and then we start to fear that we will fail at it, or we fear that we will succeed at it. What would happen if we actually got this right and we had to move to the next level? And when we have that sense of fear that we will fail or we will succeed, which by the way is very natural, so don't judge yourself for it, we tend to procrastinate. We tend to do busy work. Julia Cameron calls it shadow work. So suddenly we'll find ourselves with a very deep urge to do the laundry or clean the fridge out. Or for me, shadow work is doing stuff on social media. It looks like I'm busy. It looks like I'm doing the right thing, but am I writing my book? I am not. So pay attention to the blockers that come up that are actually, hun, here are some wounds that you need to look at. Here are some of the obstacles that you need to clear before this thing becomes a reality. And also the blockers that come up for you that are kind of your own making, where you are getting in your own way by procrastinating or by doing shadow work. And the other way that blockers come up are emotions. So you might be incredibly excited about moving towards a wild new way of working, and then out of nowhere almost, you might find yourself intensely irritated. You might find other people really frustrating. You might feel angry. Usually when you have unexplainable emotions come up once you've made a decision, that falls into the first camp of the blockers, which is there is an undealt with issue. So I tend to, and this sounds strange if you're not used to it, but it feels less clunky over time. You get good at this. What I tend to do is I will almost take the emotion out of my body and visualize it. And I'll say to it, hey, anger, what are you here for? What do I need to know? What are you here to teach me? And I've got some journal prompts that will help you have that conversation with the blocked emotions that might be coming up for you. So, to summarize, you are being an Anablept this week. We are getting fully into clearing these blockers in our group coaching call next week. But I want you to pay attention to the blockers that do come up as you are starting to move towards this wild new way of working, as you are starting to see that perhaps your gold could become a reality for you. Pay attention to the blockers of wounds, undealt with things, obstacles that life seems to be throwing at you to clear the shit that's in the way of you making this new life a reality. Pay attention to the shadow work and busyness and procrastination that you do to get in your own way. And then pay attention to the unexplained emotions that come up for you. There is space in your journal to do this. And don't worry too much if you don't know how to clear the blockers yet. Just write them down. Don't judge yourself for them. Just observe them, note them, and we will deal with them next week.